went to my handmaid, have Ishmael. That wasn't the son God was talking about. But they weren't submitted to his process. So they went outside of the will of God to try to produce the will of God. Ended up not working, causing heartache. Because eventually, he had to let go of his own son. He had to reject his own son. Noel Jones put it like this. He said, think about the parameters or the consequences of Abraham's decision. That all the conflict in the Middle East is going on now because he chose to step outside of the will of God to try to produce the will of God. Because those are all descendants of Ishmael. All these people are descendants of one man's decision to not be submitted to the will of God. Sometimes you can't see the full parameters of the consequences of your actions. But it makes sense because the promise that God gave him extended that far. If God says, you're going to have one son and I'm not going to prophesy to you about the whole world is going to be blessed. Generations of people are going to be blessed because of your one son. Now, you do something contradictory to that promise and you produce something that affects, in a negative way, generations upon generations of people to be submitted to the process. So, by the time, I don't remember the exact age, I think the Bible says he was 86. He was 86 when he had Ishmael. God promised it right before then. God shows back up when Abraham is 99 years old. That's a minute. In a minute, God says some things. God says, check this out. Comes back and says it again. You're going to have a son. This time he adds something to the story. Sarah's going to produce a son. It's not Ishmael. Like, y'all, for real? Dude, you should have told me that 13 years ago. But alas. But this is the interesting thing. 99 years old, God comes back to Abraham. A year before he's about to have a son, and God says, I am the Lord thy God. He says all these things. And he says, walk thou before me and be perfect. First time, God didn't, and this is the thing about God. This is the grace of God. That God just made a covenant with Abraham just to make a covenant with Abraham. Abraham did not do anything to qualify for it. This speaks to, check this out, the Bible says, after God made the covenant, Abraham believed God and it was counted to him for righteousness. This speaks to obtaining righteousness from God by faith. Because Abraham didn't do anything but believe. And God didn't put any requisites on him but believe. And all of a sudden, Abraham is righteous. And this happened before Abraham was circumcised. When you read in Romans, and it talks about the first 3 chapters of Romans, talks about righteousness by works. Abraham was our father by faith. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about the fact that there were some Jews that were saying that these people aren't circumcised. How can they be righteous? Paul says they're righteous because Abraham was righteous, and Abraham was righteous by faith. So the same faith that they got from Abraham, or the same faith that it took for Abraham to believe, is all they need to be saved. It's like crazy. I was like, yo, for real? This is all I'm saying, yo. God is such a genius. That the same people that the same man that the Jews called their father, Peter's like, you're right, and he's their father too. Because the thing that made him in right standing with God wasn't what he did, but the fact that he believed. So this happens. God shows back up, says, be perfect. Now all of a sudden God says, I'm asking you to do something now. Be mature, be whole, be complete. And God says, in a year, listen to what God says, in a year, at the time of life, I'm going to come back and visit you, and Sarah's going to get pregnant. Sarah laughs. Funny thing I noticed about God is oftentimes God doesn't put time parameters on what he plans to do, or he doesn't tell you the time parameters until it's close to the end. Usually when you go through in the beginning, no time is mentioned at all. July 28th, I was sitting in my room praying, enjoying Jesus Christ. I got the best news ever, you guys. God said, it's 2 days before I'm about to move into my first apartment. God says, you're about to go into a very difficult season of your life. That's it. Nothing about the season. Little did I know, all hell was going to break loose. Now towards the end of that season, and I start getting timetables. Oh, it's almost over. But yo, like 4 months ago, you couldn't tell me I had like 6 more months of this? Like for real? Don't be nice. So I could like be ready. Just when you think the worst is happening. Something else worse happens in your life. Yeah, for real. And in those moments, I was in the, people say when you go through the fire, I was in the fire of life. And those are the moments where two things happen. I found out some very good, positive things about me as related to my relationship with God and how I respond to pressure. And I found out some very negative things about me. And this is the thing I've learned about fire. Fire, when you start going through process and God's trying to develop you for something, it doesn't just expose you, it exposes people around you. You don't know who's in your corner until all hell breaks loose. Then you find out, oh. Because everybody can't handle your process. Think about it. When Job went through, there was 3 people there, and all of them was off. Then the Bible says that at the end when God restored him, all these people showed up to celebrate. Where do people go when all my kids die? Good question. Where did my wife go? Everybody bows. I'm telling you all this stuff, and I kind of feel like I'm talking, I don't really want to say this, futuristically. So maybe you got to come back and buy this CD in like a year. But I need you to understand that when you go through, first of all, you ain't going through unless there's a purpose on your life. Because there's no need for processes. For what? You ain't going nowhere. You ain't doing nothing. There's no need for process. There's no need for refining you for nothing. What's the point of putting you in the fire to make you more valuable, to present you to nobody? Mm-hmm. So if you're going through, that's the evidence that you're going somewhere. Other thing about process is, it is a moment where I've learned you have to be completely honest with yourself, with the thing that you see. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, yo, I was so frustrated, I just cussed. I was like, yo, I was pissed, yo. It just had been, last week had been a week. I was sick of everybody. Nothing was working out. I had a new job, only to find out that I had to wait 10 days. So they gave me a start date that was 10 days from the day that I talked to them and told me I had a job, only to find out that the 10 days was supposed to be for the background check to get done, and it never got done. And you waited 10 days to find that out. Which means if I still got the job, 20 days. I was pissed, yo. I was like, really? I'm mad. I'm heated. So I said some things in my anger. And my brother was talking to me all crazy, saying all this stuff. I'm like, yo, real Jesus? Yo, dude, I'm saying. And this is the thing. I knew I didn't have a lot of bearing and influence because, yo, before, when I didn't have a job, anybody tell you, I would always find another job. It was never a big thing. Like, it never took me long to find another job. All of a sudden, I get this season, and it's like, nothing. She blanks. Even when something opens up, it doesn't. I mean, you should have like, yeah, we really want to pick you up. And then I don't hear anything at all. I was like, yeah, this is getting ridiculous. This is getting this is outrageous. This is mockery. So I'm going through this process and I'm frustrated and difficult. So now God's having to remind me that Proverbs 23 and 18, that I know you're going through, but surely, very assuredly, verily, verily, truly, positively, there's an end to this. You got to understand that when you go through hard, difficult moments of your life, that they're never permanent. They come, but they come to pass. They never come to stay. You got to understand that, because if you don't, you'll do what we talked about last week. You'll make permanent decisions off temporary situations. Some stuff just comes to pass. This is the thing. The good moments don't stay forever, and the bad ones don't either. Nowhere in the Bible does it promise that. The Bible says there's a season for everything. And if you don't understand that there's a season for everything, then when that season, the Bible says, check this out, Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time to be born and a time to die. That's just the way it is. There's a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. If you don't understand that, then when the time to kill comes, you'll panic and trip out. Because some relationships start dying around you and some things in you start dying. And when it's time to heal, you won't receive it. Because you didn't understand that this thing that you were going through was just seasonal.